We're just grateful that you all made it. We had a lot of people register, some didn't. We're just glad you took time out of your week to come and see us. For those who don't know me, I'm State Representative Moira Rader. I represent a large portion of Guilford and a smaller part of Branford. I Guilford up to about Route 80, and then kind of the Stony Creek, Pine Orchard, East Island Road area of Branford. I sit on the Education Committee, the Select Committee for Special Education, Planning and Development, and I'm Vice Chair of the Finance Committee.
And I am State Representative Robin Comey. You are in my district, welcome. And I represent only Branford. So it's nice to be a single town legislator. I feel very grateful for that. I do sit on the Education Committee with Rep. Rader, and I sit on the Children Committee on Children. Hello. And also I am Vice Chair of Human Services these past 2 years. So that has been an incredible opportunity for me to really dig into the services that the state provides for our most vulnerable residents of the state. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. I'm State Senator Christine Cohen, and I just want to say you guys have two of the hardest working representatives in the House that I know, and I'm not just saying that because they are dear friends of mine, but they really are really hardworking, and you can hear just from the committees that they sit on, and gosh, Human Services right now is yeoman's work. So, just grateful to have them as partners in the legislature. I represent 8 towns in the 12th district. I see so many familiar faces here, some from Branford, some from East Haven, Madison. It's nice to see you all, and Guilford is in the House too, I see. I represent part of East Haven. I represent all of Branford, all of Guilford, all of Madison, all of Killingworth, portion of most of North Branford, most of Durham, and half of Middlefield and Lock Falls. So it's a large district with a lot of diverse needs. No 2 towns are identical in their needs, and I have some, towns with some coastal needs and other towns to the north with more agricultural concerns, and so that's really a lot of fun, just hearing from everybody and understanding a little bit more about what folks across the district, what I can do for them. And that's the purpose of hosting these, not only for us to just talk about what happened in session, which is really important, but for you to ask questions and tell us what's on your mind so that we can work on those things off session and bring them back to the legislature and hopefully make some positive changes and positive impacts for our communities, because that's ultimately why we do this, is to get your voice in Hartford. I don't know if we want to just talk a little bit about, it was a crazy session. I've been in the legislature for 7 years, and serving my 4th term as your state senator, and it was unusual in that there's a lot of change happening at the federal level that is absolutely impacting the state of Connecticut. And so it was really challenging because this was an odd year, which was meaning like an odd numbered year, meaning we have to formulate our biennial budget. And it's always a challenge, right? Because our budgets don't line up. We set our municipal budget, then we set our state budget, and then we set our federal budget, and it just doesn't make sense. We're not in alignment. We're constantly trying to make adjustments. But this year in particular, as all of you know, we were hearing different things at the federal level. There were going to be cuts to Medicaid, as there now have been. There were going to be changes to our education system and how that was funded, changes to nutrition assistance programs and other social services. And so we really tried to formulate a biennial budget using our best guesses, based on what we were hearing. So we all anticipate having to go back into session, make some adjustments. Additionally, there were a couple of things that we passed in the legislature, some of which I've talked to some folks here about, that were not ultimately signed by the governor. So we will be working on that, particularly housing. We thought we had come up with a good compromise, talking to a lot of stakeholders, municipal leaders, and folks really involved in housing and housing insecurity, and turns out it wasn't exactly what everybody had hoped for. I think there was a lot of misinformation out there, but we will be back at the drawing board, already at the drawing board, trying to negotiate a new bill and figure out how to move forward, because we do have a housing shortage across the state of Connecticut, it really impacts us on so many levels, certainly on an economic level. And so we'll be working hard on that, as well as all of our committee work. We're doing this in the offshoot session I mentioned, human services.
Yeah, we meet about 4 or 5 times a month, we have a meeting, we have a lot of subcommittees that meet, MAPOC subcommittees that are meeting, and we are meeting in big groups, small groups, little groups, every size group, and on different topics, and just trying to preserve what we have, but still be flexible enough to not make any big moves right now.
Yeah, and I would just add, we still passed a really well thought out and plan ahead kind of budget. We did make some efforts to secure some additional budget reserves in anticipation of a lot of the things that Christine mapped out. We weren't gonna kind of cover our eyes and hope for the best. But to her point, we passed a lot of really meaningful legislation along with the budget, but in that budget, we really made some investments that will hopefully keep Connecticut in a really good place. We made huge investments in early childhood education. We set up a $300 million trust, if it is, so it's gonna grow every year. So that in a few years, I think it's by 27, if a family makes $100,000 or less, early childhood care will be free. And then it will be scaled, the max a family will ever pay is 7% of their income for early childhood education. So that's huge. It's one of the biggest moves that the state made this year around that. We made a huge investment in special education, really kind of to level up the reimbursements that districts are getting from the state because they've always been underfunded, as well as making huge investments in district programming to really try to keep our kids in their districts and not outplace so much. And when we are outplacing, we're doing a rate study and we're doing a lot more oversight on those private entities that some of our kids are being outplaced to really wrangle in the overspending and really to give districts a better way to predict and understand their budgets every year. Because our school budgets in our towns are the largest piece of our town budgets. I said in finance, so we did a lot of work on the budget with the appropriations committee, and we also looked at some things. We were able to pass an earned income tax credit, sort of child tax credit of $250 per household, and that's meaningful. A lot of these families and all the things Christine outlined are the same families that are going to get hit with these reductions in Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and other social services. And so we're kind of all working on different components of it in our different committee work, but it's nice that the three of us kind of, have spread ourselves around different committees to kind of try to cover as much as we can for all of you. But having said that, it would be great to have all of you maybe pose some of your questions, and we'll try to make sure we kind of keep it balanced throughout the evening. And I see Lynn Garazini from
Okay.
Cooper.
Maybe this is a little unusual, but I want to publicly thank you all. And if you don't mind, I want to come up and give you something. Okay, you guys know me, but the people in the audience don't. But I am a representative for the Profound Autism Connecticut Alliance. And with Christine's help and your wonderful aid, Sue, we got an official proclamation from the governor, and it is making, of all days, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, Profound Autism Day in Connecticut. So that was the first step. Then the Lieutenant Governor kindly gave us a press conference,
That's right.
and that, you were there.
I was there.
And I heard you, and you do very well for us too, so my daughter lives in Branford,
Oh, yes.
and she works with autistic people, so we're just so grateful. And then, well, this is my kid, so, but anyway, we got 2 laws passed, and our group got 7108, which is an act concerning autism and intellectual disability for abuse and neglect cases. And more transparency there, and also more help for people with autism. And we're supposed to have not a survey, but an actual count to know how many people with autism there are in the state and how we can serve them. Because if anyone doesn't realize, there's a tsunami of autism coming. And I'm glad you helped with special ed too, because it's just huge. My son's 34, but it's just unbelievable how many people have autism.
My daughter's 26,
Oh, you have, okay.
and that's why I'm home, I can't work.
Well, there you go. And I today just, staffing, my son lives alone in New Haven with lots of supports from DSS, DBS, just all kinds of things. And somebody's taking a vacation next week who has him 5 days a week, twice a day. And I'm like scrambling. And we live in Guilford, so that means an hour trip back and forth anytime these aides don't work. And the staffing crisis is huge. And the amount that people, here's my next bill that I want to thank you all for. And these people and all the legislators voted unanimously for our Bill 708, which in this political climate, we're just shocked that anybody could vote unanimous on anything. So we're just over the moon with this. But the second one might even be more important for the staffing crisis, an act concerning equitable compensation for the state contracted nonprofit human service providers. They haven't had an increase in COLA since the 80s. So here are people working with my son and your daughter
And my son.
and your son, and they are getting paid less than they get at Amazon. And they're working 2 or 3 jobs. And sometimes they have to be on Section 8, they can't afford regular housing. And I once had somebody, I said, why don't you work overtime? I can't, Section 8 will take my housing.
Oh.
So a lot of people don't know all this stuff. And we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I probably don't have to give you copies of this law.
No, we're good.
But if anyone else wants it, I'll leave it on a
Yeah, leave it
table.
on the table a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And we just need to keep going with this because we had success, but it's not over, so.
It's really indicative of what advocacy can do at the grassroots level, because she brought her picture here today, but I will say that everybody that showed up, I was on the committee, the Human Services Committee, when we heard the bill, and everyone had their pictures, and everyone at the press conference as well, had their pictures, and they would hold it up as I think, as to signify that we really are, the important thing
People.
is the people, keeping them in the center and,
Right. Yeah, and then,
and have family, so thank you,
well,
being able to speak up.
and I'm going on Thursday, there's an event, no, Wednesday is coming, I don't know if you guys are going.
Yes,
I will be there too.
okay.
So we'll see you there and we just don't stop.
What is the event?
You're gonna be there, so you know what
Yeah.
it's called, it's a lot of disability groups are gonna be there. And we're talking about what happened during the session and what needs to keep happening.
Is it Disability Rights
With
Connecticut?
their,
Oh, at LOB, at the Legislative Office building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
Harvard,
yeah, my second home.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
my home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you so much for all you did.
We'll keep that any day.
Yeah, no, I told you I was gonna come and, but I'm still asking for more, it's not over yet. We're just starting, so don't get too comfortable.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I have one comment, one question, well, maybe. So first, with what happened with the GOP at the federal level, Medicaid,
Yeah.
what I'm reading is, I mean, we need a lot of education on it, because it's confusing, but a lot of it won't go into effect until after the election, right?
After the midterms, sure.
After the
Yes.
midterms.
Yeah.
That was
But
intentional.
part of the issue I hear is that the biggest challenge will be, it's less about cuts, but more difficult to get
Yeah,
in the chain, so
Mhm.
what can we do as volunteers and whatever to help people file the documentations to
Yeah.
get through the process?
Right. Yeah.
Are people thinking about that at that?
yeah,
level?
absolutely. I mean, that's a lot what we're talking about at the meetings that I talked about, that I spoke of earlier. You know, redetermination is what it's called.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And what it is that we are going to be asking, especially those with Husky D, which are adult folks on disability without kids, to check in every 6 months and recertify that you're eligible. And that's difficult. It's difficult for folks, especially with disabilities. It's difficult for seniors who don't have access to a computer. And so right now, so by the way, this was all done in Arkansas, I believe. And it did not, it's supposed to produce, the results that it's supposed to produce is more people working. And it did not
No,
do that
never.
when it happened. In fact, they were serving less people, but that's because people just fell off. And so we had a little experience on that with, during COVID, when we had to get the word out just after COVID, when we had to, but we had to get people re-enrolled after COVID. And they did an education program. They do have a website up right now. It is called,
They meaning the feds or?
no, DSS.
DSS.
Oh,
Has been
Connect?
working. No, it's called Medicaid, something CT.
Covered CT?
No, it's,
I didn't know you were
it's something CT.
I think I've been in it, but the navigation through it, definitely a programmer did it and never had someone that has to fill it out
Yeah.
sit next to them.
So, yeah, I looked at the website today, and part of the issue that we were discussing in our small meeting was, who is this directed to, right? And so I had suggested to the group that I was talking to that an outreach, you know, having forums all over the state. So the Office of Early Childhood, the governor put together a blue ribbon panel. And he did these little, the commissioner of early childhood did all these meetings for a year and a half or something across the state, all over the state, and they did all the, so I thought it would be a great way to sort of mirror that, and be able to bring it out to different communities. So I think there will be opportunities. And I know that DSS has one plan now, but as far as, has a big one, Zoom planned. They bought extra Zoom space.
Yeah, to your point, I think it's important that we get volunteers that can be
Yeah.
navigators of these things.
Well, that
We're
or
talking
go to
about
people's houses if
ambassadors,
they can.
yeah.
And also, I
Yeah.
think one thing, what people don't realize is Husky, to qualify for Husky is very difficult. Like, we've added higher income levels, higher thresholds. This increases them even further, but even, we've been having discussions about this. To qualify for Husky A, you have to make below minimum wage, right? Because minimum wage, if you're making $16.35 an hour, you're making about $34,000 a year. Husky A, to qualify is $29,000. So, we're talking about, poverty-stricken individuals. Like, they are, extremely low income. This is not, when we're thinking about low income. So people are like, oh, this is not a handout. In fact, Connecticut's Medicaid program is one of the most efficiently run programs in the country. We have one of the lowest administrative cost ratios in the state, in the country. And so, when we're talking about things like this, we run it very efficiently, we know how to run Medicaid. We actually, like, in the grand scheme, we're not receiving a ton of federal money for it, but you know, when we lose those federal dollars, you know, suddenly we're like digging into our rainy day fund. And as Moira mentioned, you know, we put aside some money, but $700 million is nothing compared to the cuts that we are seeing at the federal level and what we would need to make up in terms of those dollars. And so, you know, it's very concerning just to sort of put, an underline on what you're saying and what.
And the investment in the infrastructure to actually pull this all off. And I heard an estimate today that we would need to hire 33% more staff. And as it is, DSS can't find people to work, so
You know, and you think about.
we have time, thankfully, but
Think about this
it'll go
work.
fast.
But the thing is with having maybe work groups so that people can be a little more self-sufficient when they're going into these systems. I know I help others, with their certifications, recertification, that sort of thing, and getting locked out of Connect over and over again. I was a computer programmer, so it's not like I don't know, but we still have these programmers that we are paying for that aren't really meshing with real time what people need, and if you're in pain and you're sitting behind a screen. So if there was any way that there can be work groups to pilot releases or even the current system. And then the other piece of it with Husky, I know certain hospital systems have financial aid. Do you have conversations with the larger organizations to balance out what is sort of out of pocket for the state compared to leveraging what they have? Because they are not-for-profits.
So the hospitals are going to take a big hit in the end of this. And we were talking about the role that hospitals play in helping people. Some people don't know that they've been dropped off their Husky until they go to the hospital to get care. And so how can we partner with the hospital, as you mentioned, to have those social, a social services system. And we will be asking for the partnership of the hospitals because it's to their benefit, right? I mean, that,
And I think they are willing.
yeah, thank you.
Real quickly, because the other thing is a pet peeve of mine, but I'm sure a lot of you have been impacted, but it seems like every quarter I get a notice from some financial institution that there's been a data breach. And they offer you this stupid protection.
I have nothing to get.
I must have 30 of those protection notices. I don't know what can happen at the state level, but it seems insane that anybody who has our private information, our financial information, there should be strict regulations. And if there's a breach, they should cover the cost for life. Not this year or 2-year thing. It's rooted because there's no accountability there, so they don't care for a year or two, big deal.
They need to call in
And then they go-
McKinsey, that's
You know what I
why.
mean? I'm sure you've all been
Yeah,
part of that too. It's insane.
yeah, but we had an issue passing it.
In the Senate.
No, across the board, because a lot of businesses were pushing back, because we tried to pass
Yeah,
Oh, really?
committee, we
a
tried to do something,
comprehensive
yeah.
piece of legislation around privacy practices, and the corporate community was pushing back that we were making it too cumbersome. You know, so,
It's hard data.
yeah, right, exactly.
We did pass something that they can't sell it.
They can't
Yeah.
sell it, but they can still collect it.
HIPAA for business, I mean, we all have to live with HIPAA when
Right.
we're working in the hospital, system, so why can't we have the equivalent for businesses?
Yeah.
I wanted to raise, this is trivial, I suppose, compared to the issues having to do with medical care, but I wanted to raise a couple of transportation issues. One has to do with why one can no longer come from New York to Branford on the train, because there's no coordination between Metro North and Shoreline East. And the second has to do with Route 1, which has become so dangerous, of people constantly making left turns in front of ongoing traffic, and I see every time I'm on it, which is virtually every day, 10 near accidents. And I was wondering if the state, I don't know if the state or only the federal government controls US one, but has anybody thought about dealing with it in any kind of way?
Yes, yeah, we've done a lot. So I chair the transportation committee, and I say we've done a lot, but it's very frustrating out there to be a driver on the roads and feel like you're, constantly not sure if something, and I have 3 children as well, so I always worry about them being on our roads with such reckless driving. Let me just address first the transportation system, because this has been a huge frustration, I think, of all of us, representing communities that are served by the Shoreline East Rail System. And a couple of years ago, the governor decided to make a significant cut to Shoreline East service. This on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we already had significantly scaled back service on all train lines. But at the time, once we sort of were over the stay at home, don't go out anywhere under any circumstance, once people started slowly getting back to work, we started to restore service on every other line in the state of Connecticut, except for Shoreline East. I was not transportation chair at the time, so I kind of was unaware that this was going on, to be honest with you. It was just happening that everybody else was getting restored service. Shoreline East service wasn't being restored. We weren't hearing too much from constituents about it at the time. And then the governor made another, proposal that involved a very hefty cut to our biennial budget the last cycle. So we spent that whole, budget cycle, trying to convince the governor and his team that we really needed full restoration, and sort of saying, if you build it, they will come, that sort of thing. People have all but given up on the service. I can tell you, just in the past month, I've tried to use it, either myself or my son, 3 times, and we've been unable to do so because the times just didn't line up. In fact, it just happened 2 days ago. And so that's been really frustrating. What I can tell you is that it would be about $30 million to restore Shoreline East. Now they're saying $40 million because of cost increases to restore Shoreline East to pre-pandemic levels. Right now, the subsidy is incredibly high, as you might imagine. If less people are riding the train, it costs us more to run it because we're not selling tickets. So that per passenger cost is very, very high. It's over $150. Some people are saying it's $160 now.
So what's the difference between CT Rail and Shoreline East? I mean, they were able to have this whole new system of CT Rail. We also have CT EDU, the community colleges, all that integration, right? So it's sort of like that one thing. And if we have students coming from the shoreline, trying to go to the schools because we're saying, education is so important. So it's important except for young people on the shoreline to get to Manchester Community College, to get to Norwalk Community College. I mean, that, as part of an education piece, I don't see why CT State EDU wouldn't have influence over CT Rail, and if it means Shoreline East gets absorbed into that, because now we have students from good neighborhoods that can't get to college, and we tell them, do good, graduate from high school, you can go to school. I live in New Haven, my daughter commutes to Manchester Community College using the rail, she commutes to Norwalk Community College, to the place in Bridgeport, and so this one little enclave here is blocked. Our young people are blocked, basically, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
From better education.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there is, like you were talking about, there's something called the U-Pass for our students, and our university system can provide a U-Pass for our students to ride the rails, and we've actually had students testifying before us. A lot of students also trying to go from college to jobs, working at various jobs, coming westbound. And so that's been difficult, wanting to get to New Haven to get to a job because New Haven has, maybe an epicenter of whatever it is, bioscience, whatever it is. I will tell you, we were able, that particular budget cycle, we were able to get $5 million. It doesn't sound like a lot, but the $5 million did provide through service from New London to Stamford, which is big. That's, that means that you can stay on the same train from New London all the way to Stamford.
Go to work.
So that was a big win, and we also got 4 peak trains in addition to that 1 through train. So we were happy about that. What still needs work is we can get you westbound a little bit easier than we could before, but coming back east is very difficult. Some of that has to do with construction projects. Amtrak owns the line. The tracks rather. And so, when they have, one of their fast trains coming through, they do not want to halt service. They don't want to change their schedules to accommodate Shoreline East. So that's been a challenge. We did secure an additional $4 million for FY27. We anticipate we'll be able to get more peak service. In the meantime, I've been working closely with DOT. I just had a call with them last week to determine how we can fix schedules further, how we can work with Amtrak. We did put the Shoreline East rail line out to bid to make it more cost effective. So it will no longer be run by Amtrak. Metro North did not bid on it. We were surprised, but we have another company that runs some of our other rail lines in the state of Connecticut, so that will make it more cost effective. I think we're gonna be seeing more businesses pop up in the area and more housing hopefully, and as we get more housing density, we'll get more riders. But trying to make sure we have that connectivity is incredibly important to regain the trust of the community who wants to be able to use that service.
And you have the best champion. You have the best champion in the world here with Senator
I do.
Cohen.
People are like,
Because-
when they see me coming, they're like, oh, let me guess, Shoreline East.
No, but to Christine's point, when she brought up the housing bill that sadly failed and got vetoed by the governor, and going back several years when us and every other Shoreline representative, a senator was in the governor's office fighting for Shoreline East money, he's like, well, I want transit-oriented development.
Yeah.
And we're like,
We want housing.
well, you can't have that without the transit. So and to Christine's, build it and they will come. And so we're trying to, in some way, and she knows it's much deeper than us, but to help him understand that the whole goal around our housing efforts around the state is, yes, we'd love more people using public transit,
Well,
but
we
you have
built
to
that
make it.
huge development by the Branford Station,
Yes,
with
yes.
all this investment in the Branford Station itself.
Yes.
But you
There's
can't get
nobody in the
from
parking lot.
from,
So that
New
leg
Haven
of
to
the,
Branford.
that leg of the
Nobody.
formula is missing for our entire band of the
What about
shoreline.
Route 1? Any thought going into that?
Yes, so a couple of years ago, we passed automated traffic devices. So it requires the town to want to have them in the town. And you can come up with a plan, submit it to the Department of Transportation. And what these are speed cameras, red light cameras, and they've been proven to work, to really slow people down. You'd be notified. We have 3 towns that have been approved in the state of Connecticut. We have several more. I think there's 4 more right now who have plans submitted into the Department of Transportation for approval. And so this is really about, going to the RTM, raising this as an issue, something that you'd like to see, and, hopefully the RTM would decide that that's something that they too would like to see in the town. It's an enhancement for law enforcement. Law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time, but it's also a safety device, it gets people to slow down on state roads, so.
Yeah, well, I used to live in New Jersey where all the turns were jug-handle turns. You couldn't make a left turn
Yeah.
into some shopping mall
That's right.
across 3 lines of traffic.
That's right.
It's really, I mean.
And don't wave people on. That's a surefire way to get whacked.
On the transportation topic, Madison and Guilford have that wonderful service. How come Branford doesn't?
Oh, the extra mile.
Extra mile.
So I think what we'll start to see is more of that. Branford does have a version of this through CT Transit. It's like an arm, I'm like trying to think of a good encompass. I know, but it's saying that doesn't really mean anything. It is like extra mile, you can do on-demand services, but it's for a particular population, so
Right.
it's not available to
The other one
everybody.
is much more
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
generated.
Like my
It is.
teenager could call extra mile.
Right, exactly. I think that's terrific.
It is
I know
terrific. I
people
mean,
use
it's
it in
limited to
Guilford as
those
well.
two towns, even though it's River Valley Transit System, it's
Yeah.
limited to transportation between those two towns. And, you know, the rest of the River Valley Transit District, which also includes some of the 12th Senate District, like Killingworth and Points North, and Middletown, I mean, it's really a large transit district, they can go within their entire transit district. We're doing more of this, it's called first last mile transit options. The on-demand is really the future of public transportation, being able to, go to your doctor's appointment,
Right.
do what you need to do, and
Right.
it's incredibly
I think that would be a great asset for
It's
Branford.
ADA
So what
compliant.
this is basically, Christine explained it, but so there's an app and there's these, you ever see like the community centers have these larger van, they look like buses, but, and you literally put in the app where you live, where you need to go, and they kind of cycle through and they notify you when they're available and they literally pick you up and take you to.
Not even when they're
First-
available, so
right.
it's whenever you want.
When you want, it's on demand.
It's like ordering an Uber, except you could be on a bus with other folks that need to be dropped off.
It's very inexpensive.
There's a 20-minute window, isn't that correct?
Yes,
Right.
and actually, we've got a lot of folks in the disability community, like I have somebody, through Sarah, who has been working for me for years, who has, become more independent because of that, because she can, have this bus come and pick her up and bring her to work, so. It's really great.
I still can't convince my teenagers to use it when they're not, they don't.
Yeah, a lot of students use
Yeah.
it for after school.
Yeah.
No worries. Oh, okay. Guilford, two things. One's Guilford specific, and then one has broader input. The one for Guilford is, they have a really good story developing with the girls, the softball. team.
I know, we're so excited.
Yeah.
They just won their last, right, they just beat
Yeah,
Vermont.
have a chance to go to the World Series.
Tomorrow's the big game, they will make Connecticut history if they,
Yeah, we're very aware.
My daughter played on the team way back in 2004 when they won the district, and it meant a lot to the kids, and it was a wonderful
Yeah.
story, and any support,
Oh, yeah.
they got media attention is great, so.
Yeah, I actually just
yeah.
got an invite, we're trying to get something together for next week, so yeah.
Very good,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the second thing is unfortunate, it's controversial because it dealt with, the bear story from last session.
Yeah.
In North Guilford, things seem to be getting a lot worse, unfortunately, so, the bears seem very acclimated, we're getting a lot of sightings on almost a daily basis, and, they're going to people's garages, and, woodshed got torn apart, that kind of thing. So, and then, last week, I was going to go to my daughter's in Bethlehem. I played on the team back in 2004. I was running late. She has security cameras in her backyard. They thought it was me getting there, just going through the backyard. It turned out it was a bear that was over 300 pounds, right? And I have it right in a video. Very disturbing. It was right where my daughter's, right in their backyard, right on their deck. And, so, yeah, I'm just asking, in terms of the hunt, that everyone, we love our animals and all that, but what to do to reinstill that fear, unfortunately, or that's the thing, and how to handle it responsibly, because, we're worried about your constituents, or, our children, our grandkids, and, our pets, and, someone can get hurt, it's developing, and it seems to be getting a lot worse.
Becoming more self.
And that's the common talk with our neighbors.
Yeah,
Oh, the bears, how many bears did you see? And in their gardens, and
yeah. I'll tell you my feeling. I chaired the environment committee for a number of years, so I hosted public hearings on this for 4 years, and now the past couple of years, we've had several public hearings, and we've both been a part of it, and where
Yeah, I was on the committee for 2 years, yeah.
the environment committee as well, and I'm on it this year, so I was involved in the legislation. I'm not in favor of a bear hunting season, and there's a number of reasons for that. I really feel like we need to ensure there are not as many human bear interactions. But there's a variety of things you can do to reduce human bear interactions. Obviously, like the common sense stuff, like don't have out bird feeders during the summer months when bears are active, food sources are really what they're after. But what has been happening is we've noticed bears coming, and that's why we're seeing it in places like North Guilford, places where there's a lot of agriculture, places where they can find food sources, so they are sometimes going after hives, we're finding. We're seeing them even going after small animals, and crops, different.
In Bethlehem, actually, they broke in quite close to my daughter's, tore a pen open and took some goats and.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there's been several attacks,
Right.
on people's dogs.
Yes.
And they unfortunately encounter like a mama and
Yes.
a baby.
Yes, and
They're,
they're very
they're-
protective of the
Yeah,
cubs,
so-
yeah.
And there are, unfortunately, statistics, there's usually one black bear death per year in the United States, so that they do,
Yeah.
you're dealing with a 300-pound animal,
Right.
and what to do, and in terms of hunting, only the Connecticut and Rhode Island are the only two, but our geography is very dissimilar to Rhode Island. That's a beach state. The rest of the Northeast all allow hunting. I don't, I'm, in terms of hunting, advocating for it or not, I'm not sure myself, but what to do.
Right.
And just a responsible approach to how do you reinstill that fear if they're so acclimated.
Yeah.
And that they can kill you.
Yeah.
And my grandson, right, 15 minutes after that or before that was right where the bear was.
Yeah, it's scary, yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
and we had, for the entire time that I was chairing the committee, we hadn't had any instances
Right.
that we could point to, and then obviously I stopped chairing the committee and suddenly there was like an attack on, obviously not.
The answer is to put you back on that.
Oh, yes, then there won't be any, right, then there won't be any attacks. There are a number of things, like I said, that other states do, and we employ during that time, which are like the use of rubber bullets, can be really effective. Things that Deep wasn't willing to do is have bear dogs. Those have been proven to also be very effective. You want to scare them. What's happening is they think we're a good food source for them, so they just keep coming back. They think they're welcome. They become acclimated. They don't even care that there's humans around. And so we want to prevent that. One of the things that we also did a number of years ago when we were updating, this is what we were just talking about, we were updating it this past session, is the ability to get a permit for nuisance wildlife. So if there's like a bear that comes onto your property and is, bothering crops or, whether it be livestock or plants, then you could get a permit. You need to get it inspected and then you could get a permit. There's also been a number of situations where people are just protecting themselves and their animals and they take measures into their own hands. It's not recommended because there's a whole investigation that takes place because it is illegal to hunt bears. So you have to prove that there was an interaction and that somebody or something was in danger. But I hear you. I haven't heard, it's interesting because I haven't actually
just
heard
had
that
I
folks
think, I
about.
think the sightings are getting.
I just had one in New Haven.
Deterrence, like you said, is
Yeah.
the key. You don't
Yeah.
put things out like
Right,
food,
yeah,
compost.
exactly, right.
That's
There are
key.
some communities that invest in these very expensive garbage pails that are like, they can't figure out.
And then let me just say one more thing. It's
Yeah.
not the bear's fault.
I
It's
know,
the
I
human.
know, I know.
There's overdevelopment.
Right,
The planet has lost 73% of its wildlife in the
Right.
last 50 years.
right,
all human cause.
Yeah.
And the United Nations attributes that to development. So we're encroaching more and more and developing more and more. And the poor animals, you know, what do they do? So I feel empathic to these poor
I'm in
animals.
the state and I just had a bear walk down my sidewalk,
Right,
like
unfortunately.
in front park.
Just
Just walk down the sidewalk.
Yeah, one more critical point is, just in terms of how the people themselves feel, in terms of worrying about something really bad happening, you have people, you know, and they're oftentimes elderly neighbors who are afraid to go get their mail. You know, and whether that's an overblown concern, we don't know, because that's the
It's really
situation.
complicated, like
Yeah.
my chair of, the House Chair, she represents the northwest corner,
Right.
like Salisbury, way up there, and she's like, it's so
They're
prevalent.
like raccoons,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's every day,
Yeah.
every street,
Yeah.
and, you know, so for her, although she is also a huge environmentalist
Right.
and very much against gun control and gun safety,
Right.
I've had long conversations with her about this, I'm very conflicted, but at the end of the day, my constituents need to feel safe.
Right.
And so
It
it's,
is a
yeah, and this is a woman who's also on the environment committee, but
I know.
she lives it every day, and
It's
she's
just
like, Moira,
pragmatic,
it's,
I mean, what do you
yeah,
do?
she's
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard.
I think we did pass a law, at least it passed the House,
Yeah.
that DEEP had to come back with
A study,
a
a solution.
plan,
Yeah.
a solution
Right.
outside, because we could
Right.
not, because there was not enough support for
And
the
the government.
votes.
Right.
that
They
they
wanted
wanted.
that.
We all, I think we all voted in favor of
We
that.
did.
Yes.
Because we recognize that something needs to be done, so this was like taking it a step further from the
Right.
nuisance
Right.
wildlife, you know, because
Right.
having to get a permit, the other thing is, you know, if you get a permit, are you actually killing the bear that was actually
Right.
creating the
Yeah.
disturbance in the
Right.
first place? You don't
Right.
know,
And that's
you
just-
know, it's
yeah.
very
Right.
difficult unless
Yeah.
you're in the
Yeah.
moment.
And it touches on like this, you know, we as a state are very sensitive around gun violence and gun safety. And we have one of the most stringent gun laws in the country. And so it's hard,
It's a conflict.
you should hear our colleagues, a lot of people are very conflicted, but I think it's good that DEEP is gonna go and take a deeper dive and be given the time and the effort to try to come up with something that's amenable to everybody.
Yeah, one more thing, in terms of the sightings, you know, the Connecticut bear sighting, when the sightings are so, it becomes so normalized, you know, and you see them every day, or people don't report it anymore. And then
No, you're
the sighting, you're gonna get a skewed, you know, idea of, oh,
Data,
Connecticut only
yeah.
has 50, or Durham only has 100 sightings, Guilford might have 59, when it's really much, much more, and people just don't bother to
Yeah.
report it. So, but just so you know,
Yeah,
so
it's
the-
a thing.
whatever they're doing now, unfortunately, it does seem to be getting worse. And they do seem to be getting so acclimated, and when you're dealing with your grandkids and a 300-pound animal that can go right through a slider,
Yeah.
you know, and what do? You know, so, yeah, so just whatever you can do, yeah, I
We're trying,
appreciate your
believe me, it's,
attention, I know.
and every year it comes up, and every year we
Right.
try to make a little more incremental step towards something,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for supporting that team, that's great.
Yeah.
Good story, yeah.
Will that also be including bobcats, because we have bobcats in our neighborhood?
Right.
Yeah, they're showing up.
I have them in my yard.
Yeah.
And my dog somehow, my 20-pound dog thinks she's going to attack the bobcat. She goes crazy. It's not gonna happen. She would lose.
So with the bear,
Yes.
DEP
Your
and
point
taking care of
is
those,
taken.
we'll also be
Yeah.
looking into the other nuisance wildlife as well.
Yes.
Are we supposed to report every sighting?
I
Like,
do.
so I'm sitting here and the bear just walked down my sidewalk like
Yes,
this
you're supposed, you should
in
be
January.
reporting those.
You should
But we
report it.
didn't know, we're like, okay, we're by a park, so of course we're gonna see animals, but
Not a bear.
Not a bear, yeah. You shouldn't be seeing a bear on the sidewalk.
who would we call though?
Oh, there's, you go on the
State-
website.
I thought it was
DEP is the best way
Yeah.
to do it.
Okay.
I see something like that?
I see,
I know, I wanna make sure
Oh,
everyone gets their
listen,
questions.
I see nonprofits, I see health department people.
Any
Anyone wanna say ask questions?
I just talked about the raise the inflation.
Yeah,
The
sure.
nonprofit, because I'm a advocate for nonprofits for the disabled.
Or Karen, were you,
Go ahead.
is that what you
Well,
were saying?
I wanted to hear about the housing thing that got,
Yeah.
yeah, we wanted to hear about that.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy
You wanna-
to.
I'm happy to talk
Yeah,
about it
so-
too. I felt like I said at the top, I think there was a lot of misinformation.
A lot of misinformation, and sadly, you know, I know a lot of the folks that worked on that bill, I mean, I'm on the planning and development committee, I had a little bit of it, but The folks that, you know, the majority leader, Jason Rojas, he's been working on affordable housing for so much of his tenure in there. It's like a real passion of his, and as of many of us, and we really thought this was the year. Because they really engaged every stakeholder you could think of, every organization group that from municipal up to, you know, large organizations, and really thought they had answered and addressed everything, and really had, because it passed. It passed the Senate and the House. So when the governor ultimately decided, there is a group down in Fairfield County called 169 Strong. And the principle they have basically is that municipalities, these 169 municipalities should have a right to say no to all of this. To affordable housing requirements, not requirements, but suggestions,
Zoning.
you know, the bill was gonna allow for commercial space to be converted to residential space, like creative thinking.
Parking reform.
Parking reform, not requiring, you know, every unit to have 2 parking spots, that to a certain size development. But really smart ways, and looking at what other states have done, and has been successful. So it wasn't just let's throw everything in a pot and hope it sticks. And sadly,
We're
I
the
think.
second worst.
Yeah, we're the
state
second
for
worst
housing.
state in the country.
For building. How much?
We need over 90,000 units of housing that we don't have. So the pressure from this group, really I think got in the governor's, and you know, speaking to the lieutenant governor today, and that was her opinion, is that their campaign against it really, it wasn't the only thing, but really helped create that negative influence and that negative narrative that a lot of people, even in our community, would come to me and be like, well, I heard this, like, that's not true. And ultimately, a lot of municipal leaders were very hesitant about it. Not enough that we thought we couldn't pass the bill, but we did pass it with their input, but there were still several that were not happy with it. And I think, you know, you
There
guys
was a
can weigh in.
campaign from the
Yeah.
Connecticut Conference of
Yeah, they were-
Municipalities,
yeah.
which represents the
But there
169
had to be people that were either resistant to it or didn't have the information that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's right.
Where was the information? Fear of what's gonna happen to our community
Yeah.
was probably the number one
Right,
concern. I
That's
had.
right.
played on that.
That's right, they played on it,
I'm
and we
gonna
played on
hear
that fear.
answers here tonight on anything that somebody asks, I'm telling you. I thought I'd hear some answers to things.
What
Like
happened
the
to the answers?
Bears, for instance. Who is going to
We
come
make-
up with a solution? It's a simple question. There are other things you can do. Did they talk about maybe not euthanizing, but getting these adult bears and
Sterilizing.
maybe sterilizing?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the
That has been-
humane?
It has been considered, absolutely.
Well, we're not hearing, I'm not hearing the answers. So the housing is a real critical issue for all of us. I live in Branford, and Branford has some beautiful spots, and we see what's going on right now. All of a sudden, we hear this is gonna pass, or it's gonna pass. We see this, where the Regal Theater is, we are gonna have apartment complexes. I think there's gonna be, 150 units? Where are children gonna be playing? What are they gonna do? We are creating an area where our community is gonna have to provide more schools, or more services. We have to address, and I'm looking around.
Well, I guess
for
my
how many-
question to you
how
is
many
this,
people-
where are these
women
90,000
and men
people gonna
have
live?
children in
Yeah.
the element, the early education is so important.
Yeah.
We are seniors. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna?
Where are you gonna go? Well, these are the places
We
that
don't
we're
wanna go
talking
into
about.
a multi, we wanna keep our independent home and our community.
Well,
the way-
where are your
But
kids going to live? If they
all
can't
have their
afford,
homes. They live in Branford, they all have homes.
So I grew up in Branford. I couldn't afford to build a home in Branford. I had to go to East Haven. So if we don't want the apartments coming to Branford, but then East Haven is going to
No.
get so, I mean, where's your equity?
The smaller homes, we don't need these mega mansions going up everywhere.
I don't know, I think that's.
But actually, do you know, one
That's
of the
part of the
pieces of this
full
bill was going to allow for multifamily housing, creative multifamily housing. So you might see a house that looks like a 4-bedroom colonial, but it's actually designed for 2 families. So there's,
It's not just the aesthetics.
It adds to
but
that
I
space.
have to ask the question because this is exactly what's so challenging about this. And I hate this term, but it's not in my backyard. And we can't be a state of this small size and not be able to have every community participate in creating affordable, accessible housing for all sorts of people. And it can't be like, go do it over there in that city, or go do it over in that neighboring town, because my schools can't handle it. The truth is, the population is reducing, and so our schools are actually seeing across the board reductions in enrollment. Connecticut is holding very steady, but we do, for example, I've sat on my board of ed now for almost 8 years in Guilford, and we do an enrollment study every, 5 or 7 years. And even Guilford's gonna see a slow drop and then a
In
level
the
up.
school population or the population of the town?
The school population, the enrollment,
That's right.
and that's an indication of
Like
population.
four of the 8 towns that I represent have already had to close down schools.
We were talking about closing
That's just
Slaney right
passed.
across the street
Yes.
in the next few years.
So the worry that my town is gonna get so overcrowded, the truth of the matter is, like, we actually need everybody investing in all of our towns, because, you know, our schools are the first indicator of the value of our properties. Our schools are in great shape. Connecticut was just named by another national data pool that we're the second best school system in the country after Massachusetts. We're doing right by education, although we keep improving it, keep investing in it, because we believe in that here in Connecticut. But when you look at housing, you can't extract it away from a certain town or community and say, well, we don't need it here, but they can put it over there, and that's the
not
challenge
what
we
I'm saying.
I know, but single-family homes unfortunately are so expensive to build that you really can't, in terms of, I used to work in architecture and construction, and the cost per square foot for an individual home versus an apartment building of maybe even just 8 units, the economy of scale is so much better than that.
But Branford has, what I didn't hear and I didn't read anywhere, and I did see questions where Branford has a big population of multifamily units, apartments. You go around Branford, we do have affordable housing. I would love to see the Tool Drive, you go down Tool Drive, young people want that house, the house that's on sale. This is their starter home, and they go from a smaller home to a bigger home. But everything is big mega homes. Not everybody needs 3 acres to put a home on and live on.
Right.
I would love to see more smaller homes for families and bring more kids into the system. You know, our communities need people.
Right.
You know, we don't need, everyone picking, I do not wanna sound like not in my neighborhood. I want the character of the town we live in to be maintained.
Yeah.
And we can do that with,
Right.
but we have to have local input. And I'm hearing that we're gonna lose that.
Yeah.
Well,
No. And I think
is
that's
that
part of-
misinformation?
Yeah,
Then that's
yeah,
gotta
so,
be
I
checked.
mean, some of the things that we were hearing is, and actually, when we're talking about how a percentage of affordable housing that a town could have, towns right now are supposed to be submitting plans to the Department of Housing for review every year in terms of where they are they meeting the threshold of affordable homes within their community? And most are not, unless it's an urban center, most
Do you know where
towns.
Branford stands in that realm of where?
Branford's not the
10%.
worst, but it's
10%.
not near the 10% threshold, not anywhere near. And so actually Branford.
Quick question on
Yeah.
that, is that by deeded or by reality?
So this is what we're talking about also, in terms of what's considered affordable housing.
Exactly.
I do have a problem with that, and we should be updating it. This is why we should be able to open up 830G and make some changes, because
Please.
I have some, I have several mobile home communities that aren't
Yeah.
considered affordable housing, and yet they have fixed rent, although we're having issues with that too, but they are considered fixed rent communities in many cases and are affordable, but we do not capture those as
Right,
affordable
and
housing.
I don't think that's fair.
I agree, yeah, I totally agree.
It's not.
And so we should be looking at that as well, but I lost my train of thought.
Well, this bill creates financial subsidies. It said to the towns, what do you need to build housing in your
That's
community?
right, we'll pay for your studies, we'll
Yeah.
pay you grants for like to engage
And if you
developers,
don't
the
think you
contract
can
process.
make that, that's what I was
Yeah.
starting to say, if you
Yeah.
don't think you can meet that percentage, tell us why. Why there's these exceptions, because every town is different.
Right.
And so that's what the bill said, it said, okay, we need your plan, not only do we want you to submit your plan, but if you aren't meeting the mark, tell us why, and perhaps you'll be granted an exception based on, you know, sort
Right,
of
like it might be
what-
wet, too many areas of wetlands.
Parking.
Guilford doesn't
address
have
the
sewer.
parking.
Right,
Why wouldn't we want parking
Well,
to
because-
facilitate the people
because the
living in
study
these
has
homes?
shown is that we create way more, excuse me, I'm gonna talk too fast, I'm gonna slow down. When it comes to, small scale apartments, there's local zoning or coding can say, you know, if you build a 1-bedroom, you must provide for 2 smart parking spaces. If you have 3 bedrooms, and the goal around transit-oriented development is to make folks, not make folks, but encourage more pedestrian use and more public, you know, transportation use. And there's much more efficiency in not putting that requirement on the developer to say, you've gotta go pave a quarter of an acre behind your building and take away, develop you know, land that could be developed otherwise, or impact the environment in a negative way. All that impervious material just hurts the environment too. And it makes for more maintenance, it makes for more issues around heat. And so the idea is that, let's not require these smaller 14, 15 unit, you know, affordable housing units to require parking
40
spots for every,
spots.
40 spots. It's not
Parking is
necessary.
much more of an issue, like
Yeah.
all the studies show on the commercial side
Yeah.
versus the residential. We're creating too many parking spaces.
residential.
Look at the train station.
But then we don't have anybody riding the train. We're not providing enough train service.
Yes,
And
we're working on
I
that.
think Mike has something to input. Do you have something to add?
Something different.
Oh, okay.
Finish the conversation.
Okay,
and then-
okay.
But I much one, can I just say, I'm one of those bad Democrats who sided with the 169 Connecticut, because I really think that every town knows their own demographic, they know their own land, they know where to put certain things, and we don't want that taken away.
But it
I
wasn't
side with
going to
that.
be.
We don't want.
But it
we
was,
don't want
see, and
that
that's
taken
where
away.
they got to you, because they convinced you that
Yeah.
that was what was gonna happen, and that was not in the.
Okay, so what was the remedy to that? If that's not gonna happen, so how's that gonna
Well,
work?
Robin referred to the term as the towns take the lead, and was part of this bill was just exactly what Christine references. You all figure out what can work for your municipality, what are your limitations, like, okay, Guilford, you don't have sewer.
What are your resources?
What are your
Right.
resources? What are your needs? What are your demographics? Like, and what, you know, what empty commercial space do you have? Because that was another component of the bill. Like, could we develop that into residential? There was a way to engage, it was more carrot than stick, right? It was more like, let's work with you to make this happen. The idea that we were stripping away municipal say in things, or that we were taking over their zoning and changing it, no.
The only time, like, I will say
Yeah.
there were pieces of the bill that said, if a developer is meeting every zoning requirement of a town that's already in the charter or
All
zoning
regulations.
Following the rules,
regulations,
yeah.
then they can bypass a hearing.
That also includes being within the 10%, was that part of the stipulation as well?
Well,
So-
part of their development would have to provide for
For
affordable, not the whole thing, but a certain
So a
percentage.
builder, a developer can come in and push everybody else aside as long as.
So you'd have to get 2 or 3 people that surround that development to request a hearing. That's all you would need, 3 people.
But you can't have someone that lives 5 miles away on the other side of town be the person that calls for the hearing.
It has to be someone within.
That's actually gonna be physically
And so-
impacted.
But you can only get a hearing waived if you're meeting all of the regulatory framework of that town.
That has to get out there and explained.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think
They
we
worked
really
their
fell
tails off.
short
Yeah,
of.
169 ran
It
a
came
very
up
vigorous
just before
campaign
the bill.
against
This is
this,
when
yeah.
it became evident.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I knew. We
Yes.
was blindsided.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, this is
It's like the
often what
tolls.
happens. You write it sort of
The
like the
tolls got us.
messaging.
Yeah.
Tolls.
Yes, that's what
Everyone-
happened with
talk
tolls
to everyone
too.
now,
It's
they
like,
want
you know, If a group gets wind of something and gets the messaging out first,
We have to-
they win the messaging.
Let's do one, let's
do 2 more, yeah.
I do think that, as someone who read that bill, start to finish.
Yeah.
The incentivization to the towns, I thought was way better of an approach than what 830G is right now.
Oh, totally.
Where it
yeah.
was shove it down your throat.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised, because even like the middle
Middle housing.
middle housing, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
And could really be used in East Haven in some of our more commercial zones, if we could put some housing in there or mixed-use buildings.
Right.
And being incentivized to do that, I thought was really good, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of these things will come back in another iteration. And hopefully we can, you know, get our messaging out.
Discussion,
Yes.
we need deep
Yeah,
discussion.
I agree.
about
I would
this.
love to have a housing forum here in
Yeah.
Branford.
Yeah,
If
we
you
do.
guys are interested,
That
you
would
would
be
come
great.
out.
Yes, that's really, work on that.
Okay.
Well,
So
and
let's do
then
it.
the majority leader, I've spoken to him
Organization for
several
people with
times,
budgets.
he's offered to come anywhere, and he did he went to many communities during the last year. And, you know, but when there's a group that doesn't want something to happen and they
Well, then we
mobilize.
have to have code.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are a lot of, I wanna just say there's a lot of advocacy around this, and there has been, Desegregate Connecticut is one of them, and there's other. So it's not that we can move beyond that, and to Christine's point, you know, we're likely gonna be in a special session in the fall, and the hope is that maybe there's some iteration of this bill that gets resurrected, and that we can get through.
The carrots.
One
Yeah,
other thing
but-
I'd love to see you guys
Yeah.
talk about is provisions for homelessness in extreme weather. Because right now it's not mandated that towns offer cooling centers and places of refuge. And it's a real problem.
Yeah, they did pass a bill around, creating like a homelessness, I don't wanna say it's a
The
coalition,
showers, they said like they were gonna
Yes,
bring
Yeah,
out
but
showers.
that's just like 2 units across the state going to
Right.
Bridgeport, New Haven.
No,
Right, but
I was
something that
reading again about it
mandates the
today.
towns to provide some kind of cooling centers in this.
There's
across
money
the
being
community.
invested to expand on that, but I'm just trying to
Okay.
find it.
We have had, actually, I will tell you that years ago, my there was the big storms, I think it was one of the superstorms, Sandy or something. My mother lost electricity and she needs electricity for health care and she came here, not here, yes, here, the former here.
Former here.
She came to the community house because that's where we were told to go and she was the only person there and there was no one there and she said she'd rather go home. There has to be a need for it, is my point.
There's also supportive housing with Department of Developmental Services, and my son is on a wait list to do that. And that is, typical people are gonna be living in the unit, but a certain amount of units are for people like my son with his staff. And there's 24 supervision, one apartment is, or one condo, or whatever the situation is a 24 supervision for the disabled people in the units.
But to your thing, I can't find it here, but there is there's going to be like a coalition on homelessness, it's gonna be like designated members of all the different kind of organization and commissions and they're gonna kind of put their heads together to kind of try to address this more concisely. I just can't find it right.
They have some in El Grasso, right, in New Haven, homeless units that were developed by the mayor. Was that?
Well,
You had been asking,
Bill had their hand up over here,
Yeah.
and then Mike
because we should
behind
try
you.
to wrap up soon, yeah.
Go ahead.
While I've been sitting here, I've learned from Catherine Hines that she was arrested. She was arrested for protesting on the West Haven Bridge. It's only by accident that I wasn't arrested either. The area. We've been asking for your help since April. Why is the Branford Brigade the only one in Connecticut that's being harassed by Trooper Jackson? I spoke to you, Robin, a month ago, maybe less than a month ago. It didn't have to come to this.
You have to explain what you're talking
Why,
We don't know what you're talking
it
about.
doesn't matter, Chief, why haven't you done something?
So this is an active situation. We have been working on it. I've been working on it with Chris Simpson since it started. And
What
Horace,
started?
okay, so there are folks across the state of Connecticut who have been protesting the federal administration on overpasses. Overpasses over our federal interstate highways. There are rules about protesting in these areas.
To which we complied.
Yes, yes. So I'm just explaining the situation.
But
So
what are you going to do about it?
So what we did immediately after you were approached, both Robin and I made contact with DESP, who oversees the state police. We asked that, and I believe your group filed a complaint both with the Brantford Police and.
They've been great. That's what makes this so confounding. Why can't the governor just make a phone call? The Brantford Police told us, hey, there's a better bridge to go on. And he was right, and we went there.
Yeah.
Why is it that that trooper, who thinks he's both adjudicator and prosecutor, decides on his own to do this? Can't you make a phone call to the governor to say, hey, these people are complying, what are you doing?
So we have been elevating it. I didn't know it was is it the same trooper who arrested? That was not my understanding. I thought it was Troop, I think it's Troop G actually that arrested the woman in West Haven.
Okay, I was out of town, I just learned now that she was arrested.
Yeah, yeah, so
Trooper Jackson's the one that's been,
yes,
he thinks he's Judge Dredd from that Stallone movie.
yeah.
That's my impression of him. He's probably a very nice man, but what his actions have been unreasonable.
Yes. I agree with you. I've seen the videos, I've shared them with the colonel of the state police, and he responded to us. I have been corresponding, I can talk to you separately, I've been corresponding with Chris about.
Why is he doing this? Why hasn't
So
he
you
been
cannot
stopped?
affix, and we can get into the details, you can't affix signs, there's a little bit
We
of.
didn't affix signs.
I just wanted, let me just finish for 1 second, because I know it's so frustrating. I agree with you, I'm on your side. I absolutely want you to be able to have freedom of speech. Everybody who's out there should be able to express themselves however they choose, whether they're pro the federal administration or against it. I just wanted to relay some of the information. In the case in West Haven, they were affixing signs to the side of the highway.
Okay.
I
We have them on poles, they're on poles, they're not affixed.
Chris sent me,
I think I know this guy.
yeah,
About a year ago,
Yes.
in the winter, I was pulled over near the Saltonstall Bridge where the speed limit suddenly switches to 50 miles an hour.
okay,
But I was before that,
yeah,
and I was pulled over for going 55 in a, or for going like 3 to 5 miles above the thing.
yeah.
And the guy impounded my car, and his name was Jackson. He impounded my car. It took me close to $1,000. I had to bring cash to the place in East Haven to get the car out. And I fought the ticket and I won,
Yeah.
right? But the people who stranded me on the road in the middle of the winter, my husband had, then the tow truck guy brought me to the impounding place, and my husband had to come and get me. And the guy's name was Jackson.
Joshua
And
Jackson.
the people who took care of my car, when I told them this, the Volvo place, I said, I can't believe this happened, right?
Yeah.
They said they had no explanation except the bumper stickers on the back of my car, which were Democratic bumper stickers.
Oh, there you go.
So.
I know this
No, he is severe, dogmatic,
Yeah.
impertinent, threaten, give me your license, or I'm gonna throw you in jail.
Yes, I reviewed the video,
No,
it's
but
unacceptable.
Why does it take us so long to stop him?
Well, I mean, he has this complaint, he has one complaint, I would actually encourage, situations like this, to file a complaint
yeah.
with the state police. They have to review every complaint is recorded, they are spoken to.
I've got all the documentation.
Yeah, I would encourage that, especially in this case when we know we've identified an officer that's done the same thing. I mean, listen, most of our officers are out there doing very good work. This is a situation that is unacceptable. I am in complete agreement with you. Just 2 days ago, I've involved our majority leader in the Senate because we've each in our districts have had a situation where this has arisen. I also have a colleague, Senator Marr, who is experiencing this in her district. She represents Lower Fairfield County. And so we are working all together and getting conflicting information from DOT and DESP, which oversees our state police. and what they are within their authority to do and what they are not within their authority to do when it comes to freedom of speech. We have written, actually Senator Duff, our majority leader, just today wrote another letter to the Colonel and said, basically, what say you? Because I've asked you for another response on this because of the conflict that
He's
we
the head
have.
of the troopers?
Yes. Yeah, he's not the commissioner. You know, Ronell Higgins is our commissioner, who's wonderful, and we've been speaking with him and Ashley Payne about this as well. Robin and I corresponded with the desk commissioner's office. But this is the colonel who's responsible for the troopers who are out on the road. So giving instruction, if you approach a protest and they are on the sidewalk and they do not have signs affixed to the overpass,
They were not
they are
affixed.
within their right to be there, and you should not be arresting or approaching them and telling them that they can't be there. That's what we want. We want guidance like
I
that.
don't understand their resistance. When you are the government, you are telling them stop. I don't understand their resistance to
Well,
this.
because their interpretation of the law is different than
How can that be
DOT's
possible? But they're
interpretation of the law.
not, are they the law that they will decide it the way?
Well, and we
No.
also are being told that something beyond happened in West Haven, so we're trying to parse that out as well, which is why she was ultimately arrested. So there's a lot happening. I just want to assure you, when you're saying we're not doing anything about it, I want to assure you that this is something that does take up time in our days. We're very concerned about it. It's not something that we've ignored by any means. It's something that we are in constant communication about because it's incredibly concerning. People should have their right to free speech.
Criminal trespassing, breach of peace,
Yeah.
unauthorized sign near the highway.
Can that be a safety issue though, over?
Well, there's guidelines and there's state statute that they should be following, so, but none of that is, if you are on a sidewalk over a highway, you are allowed to be there as long as you are not posing a threat to
Throwing rocks
the
onto the
That's
highway,
right.
so that's what they're
That's why
trying
all
to
the
find
police,
out.
whether in Clinton, whether on the Cherry Hill Bridge, the Featherbed Bridge, or the West Haven Bridge, they didn't care. They were the utmost of politeness. When he threatened me and Catherine for arrest, the two police people that he probably called, it was like, oh my God, I really don't want to be here. One of them just turned his back to Joshua Jackson. Like he didn't want to do it. It was the female police officer that.
Well, I keep,
We'll
You guys will see.
we
I'll
will
keep
be in
you
touch on it. We're,
in touch.
we are outraged as well at what is going on and
Oh,
trying.
somebody just read the statute, realize that the protest is in the right, and tell them to stop. What is so hard about that? I don't get it.
Thank you. Michael?
Good
Thank
evening.
you for listening.
My name is Mike. I live in Guilford and I serve as a health director. And you folks serve the towns that I live and work in. I need to acknowledge something. So as a public health official, we look at statistics all the time. And the communities that we live in have some of the best quality of life. It is because of the work that you guys do. And so thank you. Because I know you get pulled in a million directions. And I just gotta acknowledge that. But I do want to talk to public health on two fronts. First, public health has been hit pretty hard for funding. And even in the state budget, they cut us, which is very unfortunate. Our opioid grant, we were just informed that it's going to be reduced by 50%, it looks like. And if you look at the suicides, the overdoses, and the deaths, they are on the increase, not the decrease, although they were going down and now they're starting to come back up. And so any way you can help and support local public health would be greatly appreciated. And then second, and I brought this up before, in Branford, in Guilford 146, the state recently paved it. And from a public health standpoint, bike lanes are really necessary. And there was an opportunity, they said they were gonna do it, and it doesn't look like it got done. And it's not all or nothing, and I realize that they need to There are property rights and bridges and things like that. But in some areas, it could have been widened, and it was a missed opportunity. And it's unfortunate because many people have gotten hurt on that road, and it's not if, it's when it happens again. And so anything you could do to address that, and then the flooding, I know that's a bigger issue, but
On that same stretch?
on that same stretch, like, we need to elevate this because the nuisance flooding is turning into a quality of life, and that road it needs to be widened with bike lanes.
So we're,
146, Route 146.
yeah, so we have one, we just completed, well, DOT just completed a corridor management plan. This has been going on for years. Before I came in, there was a plan, the state had a plan to raise 146. And right after I got elected, we had some town meetings and everybody was up in arms because there's a lot of historical preservation considerations along 146. There's, agriculture, there is flooding issues, there is safety issues in terms of just the turns around 146, and it's a multi-town issue, so you're dealing with both Guilford and Branford. So because of that outcry, it was Robin, then Representative Scanlon, and myself sort of attended these meetings. We got them to do this corridor management plan, which is unusual. It's not something that's usually done because it does take more time. It's resources, all sorts of things, but it's good because it forces everybody to look at all of these components of a roadway. I just received a draft of the corridor management plan.
Still a draft.
Still a draft. Now both First Selectman Hoy and First Selectman Cosgrove have a copy of it as well. I've encouraged DOT to have a meeting, multi-town meeting on the subject so we can understand. But the CMP does nothing more than sort of explain what the considerations need to be for when you do the next step. It's necessary because again, otherwise when you're going through this planning process, engineers are doing it with one thing in mind, which is like, how do we elevate the road so they're not looking at the old railroad bridge, they're not looking at, are there bike lanes available, all of these things which are necessary for that roadway. And it's a scenic highway. Which also needs to come into consideration. So the paving is not part of the ultimate plan. It's something that needed to be done, but right now it is too narrow to provide a proper bike lane. However, as we go through and make changes to state highways across the state of Connecticut, there's a real effort to make sure that we're doing complete streets, which is making sure they're walkable, bikeable, and can share the road with different types of vehicles. So that was a very long answer, but I will tell you, look out for an upcoming meeting where we can discuss this further. There were a lot of folks, I encouraged them, a lot of people from the cycling community who were encouraged to sort of, make note of that and have their voices heard in the CMP. So that is part of what came out there in that corridor management plan.
Just one other thought, are they considering going off-road? Because there are areas where you can go off-road for the bike path and walking path like other communities have done.
Yeah.
So that may be
Maybe
a
an
possibility,
option.
not for the whole thing, but maybe for portions of it. I don't think it's a one size that fits all.
I agree, yeah. Thanks, Ben.
You guys can always email us.
Yes, our contact information for all three of us is right here on the front of this, and this is just kind of a summary of some of the major bills that were passed, but the areas we talked about